All right, we talked earlier about how Christians, Apex Christianity, this Apex journey is about no longer believing in God, but knowing God, creating a different interaction with God, one that's based on knowing, one that's driven by experience and not just by belief. And so in this video, we're going to go, it's just a kind of off the top of my head. So I'm not going to try and introduce it or anything. I'm just asking you, so the title of this is, what is your story? And this realization came to me early while I was driving. I was like, okay, what is the story that I've been telling myself for so long that has led to the results that I currently see? You know, when the Bible says, you know, who do you say I am? It's Jesus saying, yeah, who do you say I am, you know, in that story. But I've heard it in the esoteric exegetical lens, is he's saying, who do you say that I am is? Who do you say that your identity is? That will determine the results that are coming your way, or the results you're going to get in life. And so I asked myself, what stories have I been telling myself about these things that I desire in life? What I found is that the stories that we tell ourselves about things that we desire, the things that we want in our lives, if those stories do not equate to the experiencing of those things that we're seeking, then the stories are false. The stories are false. When I was growing up, I always knew that God was all powerful. I always knew that God could answer all your prayers. Because when I read the Bible, I was like, well, if this is what the creator of the universe says, well, then ergo, it's done. But I was raised and lived around people that had bills to pay, which are real bills, and they really had to pay them. But they had all of these tiny problems that they said, oh, well, yeah, God's real, but yes, God's all powerful, but yes, God can fix your problems, but anytime you follow a statement with but, you've negated the entire statement. So you say, I love you, but whenever a woman says, I love you, but, or a man says, I love you, but, yeah, I'm going to take care of that. But anytime you use that, it is a statement of negation. It clears out everything said before it. We're going to save the children, but okay, I guess a bunch of those kids ain't going to make it. Right? So the whole but, get rid of the but, right? What do you say? Who do you say I am? Jesus said, who do you say I am? Who do you say that I am is? Who do you call, what are you calling your identity? Hello, Rusina Wall, Rusina Wati. Welcome, welcome. And I am from everywhere and nowhere. Make sure you like and subscribe. So the question is, who do you say I am? What is the story that you're telling yourself about reality? And you got to dig deep for this, because there are a lot of people that go, they say, you know, I want to be rich, but it's so hard. See, there you go. You just negated the whole thing. Like, why even try to be rich? Give up now, today. Live a happy life poor. Give up. What is the story that you're telling yourself about reality? There's so many times where I'm dealing with someone or working with someone, and they'll say, yeah, you know, I really want to have relationships, but, you know, women are so, you know, bad these days or something, you know? And it's like, well, that's a narrative that you have. That's a story you're telling. And if you want to have a stable relationship with a woman, and then you're telling yourself the story that it's not possible, that's where Jesus was talking about. He said, you know, if thine eye be single, you cannot say, I want to have a relationship with this kind of a person, but this person's not available, or but I can't have it because of A, B, C, D, F, G. That's conflict. Jesus said, a house divided against itself shall not stand. So if you have two conflicting thoughts in your head, I want to have this kind of relationship, but it's not possible for me. Those are two conflicting thoughts. And so you wonder why those things don't become your reality. It's important to be honest about where we are and where we want to go. And it's important to say, okay, well, I've been telling myself a certain story about reality. So I had to ask myself that earlier. I said, in these two areas that I've really been successful in and also failed miserably in, I've done 0.1% of humanity level success in both areas. Well, yeah, in both areas. And I was like, okay, so well, what are the stories that I'm telling myself about these two areas of my life that keep me from experiencing the fullness of that consistently? So let's say, yep. No, I'm not going to tell you where I'm from because I really am from everywhere and nowhere. Yeah, I don't know you an answer. So, um, the thing is, what story? There we go. Like in the past, I might have seen this. I'm like, oh, I need to answer this person. No, I don't. Like, there's no reason that I should give you any answer ever. So, um, what story are you telling yourself about reality? What story are you telling yourself about yourself? What story are you telling yourself about your strength, about your capability, about your outcomes in life? I need to be nice so I can be worthy of respect and being like, yeah, that's one story. Another story is I get to be me in my life. And anything that doesn't match with that is just not part of my life. Simple, easy. What story are you telling yourself? I've known so many people who I thought were stupid because no matter how much science, evidence based studies, research, all the talking, they still didn't get the wisdom I was pushing down their throats, my children in certain cases. And then they succeeded. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about, you know, excessive reading and excessive knowledge is destructive to you. Now, I love reading and knowledge. It's part of my personality. I love it. But there is a point where if all of the research studies, all of the truth, big quotes out there is getting in the way of you enjoying and loving your life and getting to what you want, why waste your brain space with it? We are trying too hard to get the approval of other people. Everybody over here thinks this way. It's stupid and it's a terrible life, but those are my friends and family and peers and support group and support system. So let me be stupid like them and live a life devoid of the thing that I'm searching for, which is health, wealth, wisdom, love, connection, whatever it is you're looking for, a life of purpose, a career that thrills your soul. I can tell you, hey, turkey, jive turkey. There's a turkey walking over there. Hey, jive turkey, jive turkey. But I can tell you that growing up as a child, I had a special relationship with God, one that worked. Where in the Bible does it say that? I missed it. Hello. Um, you're going to have to tell me what you're asking about. Um, but anyway, Jesus says, if thine eye be single, thy whole body will be filled with light. And he's talking about the Greek word is haplus, which means without creases. And that's in Matthew 6. Matthew 6, 24 through the end of the chapter. So there's that. Yeah, it's a jive turkey over there. The species, Jivus turkeus. I don't even know what the genus turkey is. But anyway, getting back to it, what stories are we telling ourselves about reality? Those stories are always being confirmed by our experiences. So why not tell a different story? And ask yourself, why am I telling this story about reality and not the story that I want to know about reality? Obviously, there's a transitional period. Too much knowledge isn't a good thing. That is absolutely true. So you read Ecclesiastes 7:16, I believe it is. Where's my Bible? It's in the trunk. Ecclesiastes, the seven chapter of Ecclesiastes does talk about be not wise over much. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? If you, boy, that turkey was fast. He was right here and now he's on the other side of the street. That was very quick. And he didn't get hit. God bless him. I love turkeys, and turkeys are a good sign. They're a sign of prosperity and new changes coming in your life. Anyway, I receive it. But yeah, read Ecclesiastes. Ooh, I think it's 7 verse 9. Anyway, the 7th chapter of Ecclesiastes has those verses in there. It says, don't be too righteous and don't be too wise, meaning don't gain too much knowledge. You'll destroy yourself. Ecclesiastes' entire book is just a book of it's a kind of like throwing one's hands up in the air, like, I just can't take it anymore. The preacher who wrote it, they think Solomon wrote it, but there's the speculation other people wrote it. But the idea is the preacher was saying everything is vanity. It's all a waste of time. So, oh, thank you, Melegrius. Melegrius. Thank you, Steve. Meleg, Melegrius. Melegrius. Okay, we're going to call him Melegrius jivius, jive turkey, the jive species of turkey. Thank you for that. Yeah, but so what stories are we telling ourselves? And I know as a child, I told myself that God was as strong, as powerful, as creative as I read in the Bible. And genus, not species. Yeah. I added Jivius, which is not a real word, to make it the species. I know the genus is that, but thank you. I misspoke. Um, Melegrius is the genus, but then you add the um, the other name, and that becomes the species scientific name. So Melegrius jivius. I just made it up. Jivius doesn't exist. Um, anyway, so getting back to it, what story are we telling ourselves about life and about who we are and how we show up in the world? And if the story that you're telling yourself doesn't match the life that you want to live, perhaps begin developing another story. I know that it's not always an overnight thing, and it can be a challenge. It can be a shift. Um, with I'm getting all into taxonomy now. I'm like, my thoughts are going into the taxonomical of turkeys, Jivius turkeyuses. But can we tell a different story of ourselves? Can we tell a different story about reality? Can we tell a story that matches what we want? And I was convicted earlier, and I said, oh, okay. Give myself a new narrative. And I think all of us can do that. Let this mind be in you, which is from Christ Jesus, who thought it not robbery to be equal with God. I believe that's in 1 Corinthians. And then there's another one that says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And the word renewing in Greek means to like flip your mind around, to change it, to change your mind. So that's how we transform our lives. That's how we change our lives, by changing how we see the world and what we expect from the world. That's going to impact our actions. Now, I used to be one of those people that would just kill myself, like work 20 hours, literally 20 hours a day. I was working on my doctor, just 20 hours, literally. And I only ate fruit, which allowed me to do that because you have a lot of energy. So you don't have to sleep as much. Eating a lot of meat can, your body has to process it. It takes energy. So I was just eating fruit, high calorie fruit, and just blasting through because I wanted to get through my doctorate and doing the research studies, doing the interviews, doing all that stuff. And I had a narrative that success had to be painful and hard and difficult. And then one day after all of that, and my committee chair, she was the head of my chair, she said, my committee, the dissertation committee, she said, you've had a harder dissertation than she was in her 70s, I think. She'd sat on multiple, probably well over 100 doctoral dissertations for over 30 years, whatever. And she was like, you had a much harder dissertation than I've seen in a long time. And she said, you really have been kind of going for this. In my committee, they were just not, they just weren't showing up the way I wanted them to, whatever. I needed their support. So I was like, look, you guys pull it together, and these are people that I looked up to, people I feared. These are people that determined whether or not I got my doctorate or not. And I was like, guys, you're not supporting me the way I need to be supported right now. I need you to read this doctorate, this dissertation material, go through, find the things that you think are not properly supported, and let me know, or just approve it, because I have sufficiently demonstrated that this is sound based on the narrative lens that I've created. And that night at 11, it was like 11:29 or 11:11, some crazy number like that, numerological significance. They were like, okay, well, we can't keep jerking them around, so we're gonna start the approval process. And it was a process, it took a little process, but it was done. But I changed the narrative, right? The story that I was telling myself was that I need to be patient. I need to deal with this. I need to put up with this. And after all of that, the chair of my committee said, you went through a much harder dissertation than you needed to. That shouldn't have been that hard. And you did really well. I'm very proud of you. And So when you tell a story of yourself as a weak victim and, oh, the world's going to beat me up and I need to work so hard, I need to struggle so hard to have the things that I want, and life is not easy, and the economy and blah blah blah, all these excuses for you saying no to God's blessings. That's all these stories are. Oh, well, it's so hard. No, it's not. It never has been, and it never will be, unless you decide that it is. Like I said, some of the dumbest people in the world are the happiest people in the world. Us intellectuals suffer a lot more than we need to because we're looking to other people to tell us how should I tell my life story? How should I say that God has saved me? Or how should I say my relationship with God is? So let me go to this scholar who has this bit of information and let that determine how I experience God. Now, granted, I am a bibliophile and a nerd at heart, and I am just that forever, and I love that about myself. That does not stop me from having all the things that I want. So I can continue to tell that story about myself. But if I was telling the story that I was this or I was that, and it was conflicting with where I want to go, I've got to get rid of that story. I used to tell the story that I was black and African American and had all these slave histories and stuff. And then I actually did the family research and I realized, oh, none of our ancestors were slaves. Okay, why am I telling that story? Why am I telling that story? It has no validity. And so I got rid of it. One of my ancestors who did come to the United States was tricked into a Nigerian scam. He found himself on a boat and got himself stuck here. As soon as he got off the boat, he went off and started a business. Typical Nigerian, So anyway, you've got to tell a different story about yourself. And the truth is, you don't have to get other people's permission to tell that story. You can tell that story within yourself, to yourself, long enough, consistently enough that something changes. So I want to encourage you guys to tell a different story about yourselves. Have a different narrative lens. Have a different story. Life is so much more beautiful than we allow it to be as humans. And that's why we are here. We're here to write a different story, write a different narrative. I'm convinced that humans have far more potential and power than they have, and than they are accepting right now. And I'm not going to change anybody's mind. I will just open up a portal in my life to let that power in, to let God's goodness, God's favor, God's blessings into my life, so much so that it overfloods my life and spills out into the lives of those around me, those people that are worthy of my presence and worthy of my time and worthy of my love. And so if you're interested in living that kind of life and having that kind of connection with God, make sure you get your copy of Hey God, Wake the Fuck Up. It's Bible wisdom you're not supposed to know about real life and the real you. Thank you for watching. Make sure you drop a like before I jump out of here. And yes, we're going to Melegrius, the Melegrius jivius. That's the species name for the jive turkey. Genus is Melegrius. Thank you for the taxonomical correction there, Steve. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay Apex.